So this work is called Not One, Not Two. It's a work that's collaboratively made with me and Daniel under the moniker Eridan. So this work was made in the sort of the time of 3 years. We started this during the pandemic, maybe even a little pre-pandemic to draw it out, and then really started carving it out through when we had pockets of time to produce the work together. This work is made simultaneously with another work called One and Two. The title is reference to a Zen concept of if you think it's one and two, then you're wrong because it's one and two. So we were, that's something that we were influenced by with our dual practice. And here what's happening is that we essentially start with a drawing and go back and forth on two pieces simultaneously and sort of surprise each other each time one comes to the other, really trying to find some visual harmony.
Yeah, it's quite a call and response kind of exercise, and it's something we actually developed while we were trying to figure out how to get closer to the concept of collaboration directly. And so we have two pieces that we work on simultaneously, and we switch them back and forth every so often until it's completed, and that way not Aries or not my hand is directly involved in more or less of the piece.
I think geometry too is one of the fascinating things. We've been collaborating for the last 10 years. And one of our first practices really was we called it geometric studies. Essentially, that was a really great sort of format for us to be able to break apart space while also kind of not having our specific kind of styles sort of inform what the work was going to be, but we also had already been really interested in that format. So bringing it together and really figuring out kind of different explorations of how we were going to break up the space. This is essentially a 30th and 31st iteration of the work. Yeah, and it's our largest one. We had essentially did more drawings previously, and then the last 4 are painted.
Then it has a democratic approach to color. It's showing the full spectrum of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, as a way to have an egalitarian scheme that both of us can rely on and exploit, and that also creates cohesion, having this plan of geometry, specific color scheme. It becomes almost an authorless work, which is more or less what happens during the act of collaboration. It's not Aries, it's not mine, it's both of ours. Here we have one and two. It's the pair to not one and not two. And we often work in pairs of works as a way to talk about the two of us and the collaborative act. And this extends to its symmetrical left to right scheme, which is also reinforcing this dualism, but again, in a non-dualistic way because it's a single cohesive piece.
I think what's really interesting about the practice is essentially trying to find where balance happens. And that's how we can kind of gravitate on when it feels finished or when it feels like we can actually start to add color. It's a highly grounded piece. Both of them are. They start as pencil drawings, and then we start to carve things out. But I do think a lot about the ego, especially in collaboration, because I could put something down on the paper or on the canvas, and then when I pass it to Daniel, it could easily change while also recognizing that I have to relinquish that power, while also recognizing that it might not be there, even if I've spent many hours creating that time. And at the end result, it's actually much more dynamic and unexpected for the outcome.
And I think that's probably one of the more exciting aspects of this collaboration, is that you don't necessarily know what the outcome is going to be. Even if you put full intention into it, there's this X factor of not knowing, and that's quite exciting in its own right. The colors all coalesce together and blend together. It's quite frenetic, but it's also, it speaks to another element of our collaborative practice, which is music making. And we have a long history of making experimental ambient music with synthesizers. And these patterns are sort of reminiscent of the energy of the oscillators, of the synthesizers, and the harmony that happens when the two of us come together to make this music.
The title of our show, Double Infinity, for me, when Daniel actually came up with the title, I was really interested in sort of the absurdity of infinity and then doubling that absurdity. It's sort of this paradox of how it relates to the desire of like representing something what that actually isn't. So like thinking about how in drawing or painting, it could represent a like it could be a cupid, but it's only just a painting of a cupid and it can never be Cupid, which makes me think about what infinity is, the kind of abstraction of what it is. It's a concept of time that we can understand, but maybe doesn't actually, we don't know if it exists. And to kind of double create the paradox is fascinating to me. And then, of course, it also relates to our collaborative practice.
Yeah, and that's definitely the most direct reading for me. I think that everyone kind of has this infinite space within their mind, and to be able to combine that with another's is absolutely astounding.
And
It's been
so
a privilege to collaborate over the 10 years, and it's made me a better individual artist. And I've been able to make things that I never thought were imaginable or even possible. Ari has her own skill set and I have mine, and to be able to access something that's outside of myself and yet retain ownership over a work in a collaborative sense is nothing short of magic.
love that.